Hello, my dear students. I hope you can see me all right. And the light is pretty bad, but never mind. So, this week we're going to talk about body language. And I think it's one of the most important and underrated topics. Let me just say something about what it actually is. So, we've talked a little bit about communication in general. And I have already mentioned that it is verbal, nonverbal, written communication. It basically, in a fundamental way, means the transmission and the reception of a message. This message can be conveyed through spoken or written language, but also, and importantly, gestures, facial expressions, movements, anything to do with your body. It can involve your posture. It can mean that you move your eyes in a certain way. So, body language usually is unconscious. And I want to make it conscious for you in this video lesson today. So, what does it all mean? Well, smiling is universal, frowning is too. S- If you raise your eyebrows, it can mean different things. So, I know a little bit about Turkish, and when they raise their eyebrows, it means no. So, everything is also culturally defined. Yeah? The hand movements, body movements in general, the way you stand, the way you walk, could reflect confidence or discomfort. When you give a presentation and you have your legs crossed, for instance, then I know you are not very confident. So the posture, gestures, movement of my hands, arms, other parts of the body, also the eye contact, very, very important to be aware of culture definition of eye contact. For instance, the Australian Aborigines avoid eye contact as a sign of respect, but we in Western countries see it as untrustworthy if somebody doesn't look at us. So eye contact, like all of these different things, are culturally defined. So we need to be aware, what do we do in certain cultures. In other cultures, it might be that you can have eye contact from woman to woman or man to man, but not between different genders. So all of this needs to be learned. I'm always amazed that we don't teach it explicitly. We teach the verbal language, but we really don't teach the physical language. And yet, that is where so many mistakes happen. The same goes for physical touch. Do you shake hands? Do you hug somebody when you see them first? Do you give them a pat on the back? Do you kiss them on the cheek when you see them? This is all, as you know, very different from culture to culture. And we need to learn this explicitly. Then there's, of course, the tone of voice. Don't forget, sometimes we have a high pitch, a low pitch. We increase the pace, or we speak loudly or softly. We give a different emphasis, intonation when we speak. So all of these are really important little signs that people might interpret and might misinterpret as well without really knowing what is going on. Okay, so definitely one thing you will notice when people feel close to each other, I think I mentioned it to you before that I sometimes like to go to a cafe and I observe the people and I observe couples. And what happens after a certain time when people feel comfortable, they actually mirror each other. So they imitate, in a way, the gestures of other people, mostly unconsciously, and that helps to create a sense of connection. However, we need to also be aware that some people are really, really clever with body language. For instance, if you've got a very good salesperson who wants to sell you something, they might have a chat with you, and then after a while, they actually mirror and match your body language, and you feel there is a connection, but they have done so in a manipulative way so that you feel the connection and that you buy the item of them. So, being aware and understanding body language can really enhance interpersonal communication. It improves relationships, and it's also a very effective way in a professional situation if you understand the body language of another person. As I said, there are cultural differences we need to be aware of, even various, if you just think about it. Um, let's say, this could mean zero, perfect, could be very rude in certain cultures. Mm. So we need to be aware that some of our typical gestures are possibly rude in another culture. I spoke about eye contact already. Another thing that's very much culturally defined is personal space. So, what I noticed again, and I think it has to do with geography, I feel that in Frankfurt, for instance, I stand much closer to people. That is because there are more people in a smaller space. Now, here in Adelaide, so we've got what I think 26 million people overall in Australia, and Australia is as big as the whole of Europe. So you can imagine that everybody has a much bigger personal space. And if you come too close to a person, they might feel invaded. They might think that you're actually getting into their little buffer zone, into their personal space, and then they move backward. This happened to me actually in Thailand many, many years ago. So I didn't know which bus to take. I went up to a woman and I wanted to ask her, but she felt as if and I have a big body space, I was invading her body space. And so she moved back. And I just moved closer again. And she moved back. And I thought, what's wrong with me? Do I smell? What is it? Why does she move away from me? Well, the fact was, it was just a little bit too close for her cultural definition. These things, of course, change if you are on a busy train or a bus and people need to squeeze together. Then it might be okay to have less space around you. But if you're in the open, you think about it. And one thing you could do in your groups is you just experiment. You go stand up, two people stand up, and you come closer and closer and closer, and you can feel where it becomes uncomfortable. And then move back again where you start to relax again and you feel more comfortable again. This is definitely a personal thing, but also a culturally defined habit. We need to be aware of it, especially if we travel overseas or if we work in an international setting. Then facial expressions, of course, differ. And you might think it's very nice to smile at someone, but some people also smile, don't forget that, because they're actually nervous and they just want to be polite and they smile, but they might still be feeling anxious inside. Simple things like nodding your head or shaking your head can mean yes or no. Again, in different cultures, maybe something different. If you're pointing at somebody, that could be very impolite in some cultures, like Middle Eastern, Asian cultures. It's even disrespectful if you're sitting in a way and you're pointing your foot towards somebody. If there is somebody in your group that might have this sort of cultural background, please come forward and explain to the others what's it like in South America, what's it like in Asian, Middle Eastern cultures if you are pointing your finger at somebody, or you're even pointing your feet at somebody. Even sitting with your legs crossed could be interpreted as rude in some cultures. Yeah. Now, the way people are seated, have a seating arrangement in meetings is very different as well. You know, the boss is usually sitting at the end of the table and dominates the whole thing. And if you want to have a more equal, egalitarian approach, you have to make sure that you have a round table and everybody is in the same position. You know that in some cultures you shake hands, but you might not shake hands with the opposite sex. So be aware and have a discussion, please, about your particular preferences. Where do you feel uncomfortable? You might be from a different cultural background and be aware of how to behave and how not to behave. And just discuss it, please. Now, there is something that I find extremely interesting, and this is what you will find in one of the materials on Moodle. So our body language and our emotions are so connected that most of the time, this mind-body connection, or what we call embodied cognition, is also again unconscious. But we can make it conscious and we can use it for our benefit. What do I mean by that? So there is some research that shows that people who have open body language, like expansive, open postures, they actually convey confidence and a certain type of authority. Then, if we are smiling, it's a very interesting thing. You know, you can do an experiment. Basically, you take a pen and you put it in your mouth like that. Sorry. Mhm. And you smile 2 seconds, 3 seconds. You smile like that, you artificially smile. But what happens is it's not just that you express joy and happiness through your smile, but when you actually create that smile, like with a pen in your mouth, you become happier. What does that mean? What it means is you can actually influence your emotions by taking certain poses, by having a certain facial expression, by walking in a certain way. So if you stand tall and you have a good posture, you can start to feel more self-confident. In this video that I think I uploaded there on Moodle, you will see that even people who are blind from birth, like let's say if you have a marathon runner, even if they are blind from birth, if they have won the marathon, they take this power posture. It's this power, like this victory sign. Okay. They've never seen it anywhere else. They've never been able to imitate it anywhere. It comes naturally, like, yes, I've won. Okay. Now, if you go into your seminar and you need to give a presentation and you feel nervous, which a lot of people do because public speaking is apparently very scary, and most people are so afraid of it that rather prefer to die than stand in front of 500 people and give a speech. So, what you can do is you use this knowledge about the body language and you go somewhere where hopefully nobody sees you, and you take this power posture. You just hold it for a minute or two and you stand up straight and you take this yes victory sign and you express it and you imagine it and you imagine how wonderful your speech will be. you will see that you will lessen your anxiety. It will actually affect your mood and it will decrease your levels of stress hormones. This self-assurance, self-confidence, of course, comes across because what are we? We are energy, and the other people pick up on your energy. So if you are confident, you feel, yes, I'm going to do a great job, that is what comes across. And that is what you need to actually be very successful because we all make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes and they're there for us to learn. But if you are all crunched up before you go into a seminar, or, sometimes I see people sitting like this, really all crunched up. No, you have to have that open posture, even just to change your inner state of being. So use the knowledge that we have about body language to influence your thoughts and your feelings. If you if you're stressed, everything sort of seems to contract. It all tightens up, it all contracts. What you need to do before you go into an environment where, what are we afraid of when we're giving a speech? We're afraid of the judgment of other people and how other people will see us. And we're afraid of making a fool of ourselves. That's natural. But what you can do beforehand is you walk around the block, because moving, walking, stretching, it releases these endorphins, and these are natural mood enhancers. So don't sit there all crunched up. Get out before you need to do a presentation. Walk around the block, get that oxygen into your brain, and walk straight, like up, shoulders back, straight. Take these power postures. And also visualize. Visualize how you will be successful, how you will be applauded at the end. Visualize your success, because visualization also enhances your mood and boosts your confidence and gives you more motivation. This video that is up there is really interesting because the link between our emotions, thoughts, and our body language can therefore be reversed, so that you start with the body language and intentionally adjust your body language so that you can positively impact your emotions, your confidence, and also your overall well-being. Practice this, please. And I just want to say something related to this. I wrote before in one of the comments, it's really important that your buddy group is a safe space. And what I mean by that is everybody can be themselves. Everybody can express what they want to express. Everybody can say without judgment what they want to say. And you support each other in just being allowed to speak and to express your thoughts, because it's often in speaking that we realize what is inside of us. I often say something and I think, well, where did that come from? I didn't even realize it was there. So we need to be allowed to express ourselves without judgment. Okay. But the component of trust, which I brought up in the first week, means that whatever is said in the group is not carried outside. This is a safe space. General discussions, like if you talk about what the weather is like in Frankfurt or whatever, yes, you can talk about that with your friend or whoever over dinner. But if somebody had shared something very vulnerable or very close to them, then please respect the safety of your space and don't carry it out. It needs to stay in that group. Now, you can tell me in the meeting minutes, but really it's important to build that safe space so that conversations can happen. And part of that is that not one person dominates. there is something, there's a whole research, there's so many studies that show in every group you have typical people. You've got the jester, you've got the one who wants to bring the cake and have a good time, then you've got the one who just observes and never says anything, and then you've got the one who usually is very powerful and tends to dominate the conversation. What I want you to do is really be mindful of it, because this is a space where everybody is equal in their rights and everybody should be encouraged to share if they feel like sharing, but not be under pressure. And I certainly want to point out that sometimes people might not be dominating just in their verbal language, but also in their body language. And this sort of, for instance, if you have palms down and you make that gesture, you might not say anything, but you're basically shutting the person up. Yeah. Whereas if you're talking with open gestures, palms up, people feel more invited to share. So please observe your own body language. Please make sure that everybody is treated as equal and use each other as a resource, laboratory. This is like a group of little guinea pigs together in a laboratory where you, as time goes on, have the aim to become more and more like maybe friends or at least respectful colleagues, where you use your little group to really find out about yourselves, about other people, about the topics, etc. I think one good exercise for this week would be to do something like I usually do. You go outside, whether you're on the train or you sit somewhere on a park bench, hopefully the weather is good, or you sit in a seminar and you just note down without the people realizing the body language. Make it explicit. See what other people do with their bodies, with their facial expressions. If you go to a seminar, I hate being in that position myself, being observed, but I think it's a good exercise and it's all without judgment. It's just really observation. If you listen to somebody, a teacher, or if you're outside, write down what are they doing. Okay, they're lifting their left hand and now they are making big eyes and now they're smiling, and write it down, because it will sensitize you to understanding this language, because this language is often more truthful than the words that come out of people's mouth. And when you want to really understand communication, I think the more essential, the real, the honest form of communication is through the body. We have all learned to be intellectually extremely smart and to put good words out there, but we can't hide how we're really feeling unless we are a trained manipulator. We can't hide how we're really feeling when our body expresses itself. So make it a little experiment, share what you find in your group. You can do it in your classroom, you can do it outside and bring back your observations. This is also extremely important for anybody who wants to work with people later on or is currently working with people, like teachers. But I mean, basically everybody works with people somehow, unless you're a lonely author. If you work with people, put the words on silent. It's like turning off the volume. Put the words away and just observe the body. Sometimes what I do, I don't have a television, I don't believe in television, but sometimes when I go and watch a movie or I put something like we have SBS here in Australia, Sometimes when I watch a movie, I just don't have the volume on and I just observe the body language. I find that so fascinating. And when you're really good at reading this body language, you almost know what they're saying. And if there's a gap, a discrepancy between what they're saying and what they're expressing in their body, that gives you valuable information. Okay, that's all for me right now. I hope you're having a great time there in Frankfurt. And in your meeting minutes, just let me know what you found out and what you discovered. If there is anything you realized about your own body language, or maybe something you would like to improve. Maybe you want to become more expressive. Maybe you want to take that confident posture. Maybe you want to speak up more. Whatever it is, make yourself your lab rat and discover how you want to improve or work on your body language. It's so vital. Okay, bye for now. I hope you are well and I hope I can upload this now. Bye bye.